Guys, let me ask you a question. When your time comes, what do you want people to think about after you're gone? When your time is up, just like that song said, when my time comes, when your time comes, what are people going to think about you after you're gone? When they put you in that box, and they have a big, nice, fancy service for you, then your family walks out, and it's a tough day. And then weeks and months later, when they sit back and they talk about you, what are they going to say? My, he looks happy. Is that what you're going to get? Who are your heroes? Just throw them out for me. Give me a name. Give me a granddad. Who are your heroes in this world? Who? Oh, please. Your dad, thank you for an actual honest answer. These freaks around here. Who else? Who? Hugh Hagan is your hero? I love Hugh Hagan. I'm into that. Who else? What's this back here? Jesus is your hero. Cool. What? And your husband? That too. Hey, I got to tell you, I hope my wife says I'm the hero. You say Merle Haggard? Okay, I don't know where Gina is, but our next series is going to be defining a hero. Because these people crazy. We got Merle Haggard listed. I hear you. I got you back there. Evel Knievel. What? Who is? There you go, see? Hero time. Roger Staubach, hero time. What makes a person your hero? What makes Merle Haggard your hero? Your daddy, who is your hero, was a Christian man and he lived it. Is he still with us? How long ago did he pass away? 1990? And you still to this day think about that, don't you? Our series is obviously, as you can tell from the incredible painting on the back wall that Pam Jeffers did for us. Give it up for her. Our series is called Leave Your Mark. And we're going to go through 3 different weeks of talking about what it means to leave your mark on this world. And I think there are a certain number of things we have to do in the way that we live our lives in order to leave our mark on this world. One of those things, and you will notice this about every hero that you actually have in your life, the heroes that I have in my life are like my dad, my granddad, some people that I've worked for in the past, people that one thing they all did was they cared more about me than they did about them. My granddad would give me anything. He was the kind of guy, and my dad has this gift too. He was the kind of guy you could walk in his house and say, man, I really like that chair, and you were taking it home. Didn't matter if you really wanted it, but if you said you like it, you're putting it in the car. My father is exactly the same way. He will give anybody anything that God says give them. And I did walk in our house one time and sat in this big blue comfy chair in the house, and I said, I like this. And he says, good, I hate it, get it out of my house. And he helped me at that point carry it to the truck. And I had to take it home, as my mother saying, are you doing with my chair? Didn't matter. Didn't matter. He was giving it away. I believe the definition of a hero gives us a good understanding of what it takes to leave your mark on the world. And there's a statement that I'll make to you tonight that I have made numbers of times before, and I will make again a number of times in this series. But in order to leave your mark, you must live your life for something bigger than yourself. Because if you are the biggest thing you ever live for, nobody will care when you're gone. Nobody ever sits around a year after your funeral and says, man, that Jared, I really miss him, but boy, he cared a lot about himself, man. I love that about him. You could just tell every time you saw him, he was thinking, I don't give a rip about you. I love that about him. You never hear that about people that pass away. You never hear those stories about, oh man, you remember that day when I was a kid and I needed one of those and he just said, no. You never hear those stories. Why is that? Because people that spend their lives living for themselves don't impact the people around them. They don't leave the mark that we're talking about leaving tonight. Because when you leave this place, we talked a little while back about in technology world and you're sending emails and you have the signature. And your signature goes with you. No matter where you are, no matter what you do, you sit down and eat at a restaurant, you get up and leave, you have left your signature in that place. They understand because you were there, their life is either better or worse, but you left your signature, you left your mark. When you leave this planet, one day when your time comes, you will leave a mark of some kind. And what we want to talk about tonight is leaving a mark that's worth leaving. Leaving a mark that people actually sit back and a year later go, man, that guy really impacted my life. Or 20 years later plus, my dad is my hero still to this day because of the way that he lived his life. And I want to take you through some steps tonight of just walking through what it means and how to leave a mark that actually matters to the people around you. Because you see a lot of people leaving marks that don't matter. How many of you have been watching anything on Michael Vick? Anybody seen any news about him? Do you think 10 years from now we'll remember what's going on right now about Michael Vick? You will remember it. Why? Because some of you are Falcons fans, and now it doesn't matter? Did they win today? No. See? But you had your hopes, man. You had all your hope built on this quarterback coming in and changing your team forever. And I'm not going to sit here all night and bash on Michael Vick, but he's leaving his mark. The one that I thought of was Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton, as you watch her on TV and in the news and everywhere else, she's leaving marks everywhere. You can see it. And when I said her name, all of you had something in your mind that popped up, and none of it was positive because of the way she lives her life. People that live their lives for themselves leave the wrong kind of mark on our world. And I want to help you understand tonight how you're supposed to live in order to leave a mark that lasts forever. Because there are marks that shouldn't last forever. There are marks that you don't want to leave. How many of you have children? How many of you have a mark of some kind on your wall in your home that you did not want them to leave? And they cannot understand what problem you had with them using that permanent marker in their own bedroom to write their name 4,000 times. They don't get that. There are all kinds of marks you can leave in this world. We want to talk tonight about how you leave a mark that actually makes a difference. Mark chapter 2, verse 1 through 5, which is, cool that we're using that chapter, that book. Chapter 1 says this: when Jesus returned to Capernaum several days later, the news spread quickly that he was back home. Soon, the house where he was staying was so packed with visitors that there was no room for more, even outside the door. While he was preaching God's word to them, 4 men arrived carrying a paralyzed man on a mat. They couldn't bring him into Jesus because of the crowd, so they dug a hole through the roof above his head. Then they lowered the man on his mat right down in front of Jesus. Seeing their faith, Jesus said to the paralyzed man, "My child, your sins are forgiven." The picture you've got so far is that 4 guys are carrying a friend of theirs, and he's paralyzed, and they have decided that Jesus is the only thing that can help him. And getting their friend before Jesus is the only thing that's going to heal him. And they get there, and they're outside this home that no one else can possibly get in. It's packed. It says there's not even room for them outside, which is an amazing crowd around this home, listening probably out the windows, at the doors, everything, listening to Jesus preach. And they look at their friend, and they recognize that it's not okay for them to sit outside and go, "Well, buddy, we carried you as far as we could, but we can't get in. What do you want us to do?" So instead of that, they decide to climb up on the roof, dig a hole in the roof of the house, and drop their friend through that hole in front of Jesus to get him to get him to be able to focus on their friend so that their friend can get the healing that he needs. True story. And then it finishes up a few verses later like this in verse 10. And what happened was a lot of people had problems when Jesus said, "My child, your sins are forgiven." A lot of people had problems with that. And so Jesus said in verse 10, "So I will prove to you that the Son of Man has the authority on earth to forgive sins." Then Jesus turned to the paralyzed man and said, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and go home." And the man jumped up, grabbed his mat, and walked out through the stunned onlookers. They were all amazed and praised God, exclaiming, "We've never seen anything like this before." I want you to understand something. If you want to leave a mark that matters, you have got to be focused in a way that when you make your mark, when you do stuff in your life, other people must be impacted. Other people have got to be impacted by the way that you live your life. And some of you are saying to me tonight, "Well, there's nobody that's impacted. If I died tonight, not one person would notice. If I died, and if my time was tonight on the way home and I never came back here, not one person in this room would notice that I'm gone." And my first statement to you is we need to talk, because I want you to understand that there are relationships here and fellowship among us that people want to love you and get to know you and know that that is important to you. But second, my question would be, what are you doing for other people right now that they couldn't live without? What are you doing for the people around you right now to impact their lives in a way that if you were not here tomorrow, they could not live without that? See, that's the life I want to live for my family. I hope. Now here's the deal. I'm not ready to go. I love my family. I want to be with them as long as I can. And if I do end up gone for some random reason, like if I do get the motorcycle that I want, TK, and doesn't work out all that well. We've already talked about life insurance before that happens, so if it doesn't work out, it'll work out for her. But anyway, here's the deal. I want to live my life in a way that I impact the lives of my children and my wife. So that if I was gone tomorrow, yes, I want them taken care of. Yes, I want them to have plenty of financial stuff, plenty of all this and that taken care of. But I want them to miss me because I have lived in a way that impacted their lives. And I was at a men's retreat this weekend, and one thing he said was, when you get to that point where, you're older and your kids are grown and gone, one of the things that almost every man says is, "I wish that I had spent more time with my children." I don't want to have that. I want to live my life in a way that impacts the people around me. How many of you, every morning, you get up right now, anybody ever hear about the hurricane that hit New Orleans? Y'all heard about that? What's the name of it? Katrina was a hurricane that hit New Orleans. Let me ask you this. How many of you got up this morning thinking about that? Nobody. Why not? Because you weren't there. You know who did get up this morning thinking about it? The people in New Orleans that are still trying to build their houses back. See, you heard about the story. You might have even met some people that went through the story. You might have even you might have gone down there and helped move stuff around and help make things happen. You heard about it. You even lived a little bit of it, but it did not impact you like it did the people of New Orleans. And I think there are a lot of us living our lives where we say we're going to leave a mark and change a lot of things and do a lot of things for Jesus or just to make a difference in this world. And we're not living in a way that impacts the lives of the people around us. I want you to think about these 4 guys in this story because they were living in a way that impacted the life of their buddy. They were living in a way that they were not taking no for an answer. They weren't taking a crowd for an answer. They weren't saying, oh, well, we tried, but we couldn't get there. The actions they took impacted his life forever. You need to begin to live your life in a way that impacts your friends, impacts your family, changes them forever. What does that take? That takes you living for something bigger than you. That takes you actually looking at other people in your life and thinking, what can I do today to impact them in a positive way? What can I do that would make their life better today by me taking action in my own life? See, because I believe this, we want to leave a mark and we all want to be famous for something, and we all want, when we die 10 years later, we're still sitting around talking about us. And when I'm gone, I know 100 years from now, y'all all still be here chatting about how great I was, right? Yeah, whatever. You'd take like a week and a half and replace me. Who was the other guy? I don't remember. He's gone. But in order to leave your mark on the world like God says to, you've got to begin to live for something bigger than you. And you've got to begin to live in a way that impacts people's lives around you. Some of you know exactly what I mean because you've lived through a tough time and someone else stepped in and impacted your life. And you know that person changed you forever. That's the way we need to be living our lives. Number one thing is you've got to live in a way that other people are impacted. Number 2 thing is you've got to live in a way that the impact is positive. See, we remember Hurricane Katrina, but the impact of that wasn't positive, but it was an impact. And it would be easy for me to say to you tonight, just live your life in a way that people's lives are impacted. Well, that'd be easy. And we can go out tonight and shoot somebody, and we've impacted their life. We've changed their life forever. And then you come back next Sunday and go, Jared, I did my part. Shot a fellow last Sunday night. Impacted his life forever. These guys that took their friend and picked him up and carried him to Jesus impacted his life in a positive way. For you and me, when we live our lives for ourselves, if we impact other people, it's not positive. When you look at other people and you see that they have a need and you think, yeah, you've got a need, but I have a bigger need, so I don't care about you, you have now impacted their life in a negative way. When you're walking through your life and you have a chance to help someone, and instead of that, you decide, I think I'll just take care of me today, you have then impacted that person in a negative way. When you go to a restaurant and you treat your waiter or your waitress or your hostess, whoever, like they are trash, you have impacted their life in a negative way. So first, you've got to live your life in a way that impacts other people. Second, you've got to live your life in a way that impacts them in a positive way. Find things that help other people. Find ways to use your life and live your life in a way that helps other people. And then what we will see is that you will begin to live your life in a way that impacts them in a positive way. You know what? You're going to impact your children. Those of you that raise your hand that have children, you will have an impact on your children no matter what. The question is, when your child turns 30, are they going to be out someplace doing something impacting someone else's life positively, or are they going to be in a counselor's office blaming everything in their life on you? Because they'll be one of those 2 places. Because you as a parent will impact your children. But what God teaches us through this story is these guys impacted their friend in a very, very positive manner. And that's the example he sets for us. Third thing is this: the impact has got to spread beyond yourself. If you want to leave a mark that actually matters and change the world around you, you've got to do something that impacts people in a way that it spreads out further than who you are. Now, what do you know in our world today that spreads quicker than anything? Kudzu. And from what I hear, I'm not from here, but I don't think you can kill that stuff, can you? What else? Rumors and gossip. Spam. Who? Bad news. Y'all left out the sickness stuff, but it spreads pretty quickly too, doesn't it? I'm not a fan of being sick, so I think stomach virus spreads faster than anything else ever created by God or man. I can call somebody on the phone, they're like, oh man, I've been sick throwing up all night, and I'm like the next day. I get sick through the telephone. But you think about it, the things in our world that spread the quickest are gossip, bad news, rumors, whether they're true or not, they spread quicker than anything. Why? Because when you're living for yourself, and if you're living for your own glory and your own, hey, I'm going to make this about me for just a minute. Oh, I heard something really cool today. I don't know if it's true, but I think I'm going to tell everybody I know just so they'll know that I knew it first. That stuff spreads like crazy. But you know what? You need to, if you want us talking about you 10 years after your time was up, you need to live your life in a way that impacts people, impacts them in a positive way, so that it spreads further than that. I want to show you what I'm talking about with this same story we've been reading. When he said that in Mark chapter 2, verses 10 through 12, in the verse 12 it says, and the man jumped up, grabbed his mat, and walked out through the stunned onlookers. They were all amazed and praised God, exclaiming, we've never seen anything like this before. Here's what happened. His friends decided to impact his life. His friends hoped and prayed that they could impact his life in a positive way. And when God changed him, because of their faith and because of their action, he gets up, runs out the deal. In another book, it says he ran out the door praising God. And then that version says, and all the people around him were amazed and praised God because of it. Guys, you've got to live your life in a way that when it all comes to an end, even after you're gone, people that you have impacted are sharing with other people, and they're impacting other people's lives, so that who you are, the mark that you leave, continues to grow and spread even after you're gone. I think it's going to be an interesting series because we all leave marks everywhere we go. We all do crazy things, and we all do things that people notice and remember about us. I want us in the next 3 weeks to really begin to understand what it means to leave a mark that matters. Next week, we'll talk about how that mark that you leave can last forever and what it takes to make that happen. But tonight, I want you to understand the challenge is to find ways to impact people. And then let God do some amazing things through you so that you are leaving a mark that matters to him.